morning, good afternoon. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to today's community briefing. My name is Gregory Sneed. Today is the 7th of March in the year 2024. And as you might be able to hear a little bit, I am recovering from a head cold. Sounds like I'm just coming out of puberty, but that was a few years ago. So we will do the best we can to keep the voice going, and hopefully it doesn't crack. So welcome. We are in the month of March, and we'll be celebrating Women's History Month. We'll have some guests later. We're on the back end of the voting season, and hopefully everyone voted and made their civil rights apply, and a lot of our ancestors fought and died for us to have that privilege. And I'm curious to see the results. I've heard turnout was relatively low. I'm hoping we can bust out of the 20% turnout, which has been the norm on some of these off elections. And then when it comes November, hopefully we can get the numbers into the 30s, 40s. And wouldn't it be grand to get close to 50? Half of our people making it, and that's registered. That's not the people who are eligible to vote. These are the people that are registered to vote. So with that, we're waiting on our guests to arrive. I will introduce the guests once he shows up. But in the meantime, I am going to comfortably kick it over to our African-American women history queen of the queen for the month, queen for the month, Crystal Mitchell.
The unapologetic Black woman. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome. I am Krista Mitchell. I am the co-director of Recycle Black Dollars, as well as the inspiration behind the community briefing. This is our platform. This is where we come together, make a better tomorrow, not for us, but for the future of for our children's future. That's why we do this. And bringing us together to work together so that we can have a bigger voice and a platform at the table. That was the inspiration behind this, was to make sure we knew where everything was and to be the information highway for you receiving things that are information that's going on in your community. We have some amazing people that join us every Thursday at 11 a.m. This platform is powered by Recycling Black Dollars and Black Business Association, the BBA, as well as monetarily sponsored by Southern California Edison, SoCal Gas, PCR, Wells Fargo Bank, Northrop, Los Angeles LDC, and our newest is the Urban Excellence company. So we want to thank you for joining us. So while we're waiting for our guests, couple of things that's going on in our community. We have some great events coming up. The BBA is having their Salute to Women on the 23rd, so make sure you turn out for that. There's also a procurement meeting going on, although now I don't know. There was a judgment that came out that the minority business, Development Agency, their judge, MBDA has decided that it's discriminatory, and that now it is open for all races of people, which it really was before, but now they're going in with the whole thing. So we don't know what that means. I was actually supposed to start a program, a cohort. We got to see what that looks like. So with that, I am going to, so you guys stay in tune to news and just do your own research and find your own information, because there's some between now and November. So we just did the primary. We're not out of the election period. We still got work to do from now into November. We need to make sure we get everybody voting. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Robin, and she's going to kick that rest of that into the goalposts.
Good day, everybody. Glad to be here. Robin Billups with the Billups Group. I work with entrepreneurs and enterprises who are looking to be in compliance with their supply chain inclusion, and folks who are looking to be more strategic about their business plan. I want to send a big thank you to everybody who went to the polls. I think that people tend to see these primaries as not as important, but what we're starting to realize is local politics is the start of national politics. So again, as we between now and November, we will continue to push the idea that our vote counts, and that's the only way our voice can be heard. And as Craig said earlier at the top of the call, top of the show, our ancestors gave their blood, sweat, and tears in order for us to be able to vote. So why wouldn't you honor the fact that somebody died in order for us to be able to vote? And so again, while you may not like all of a particular candidate's platform, find somewhere that fits your purview and get in that poll and vote. Again, when you don't vote, that means you voted for the other side or you voted against yourself. I'll put it that way. And so again, thank you for the opportunity I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to vote. And I'm also grateful for this platform. And Joe Roseanne is driving. He's committed to plugging in and he's driving. So Joe, pay attention. I put you on mute. I was the one to put you on mute. Ted, and again, I want to say, as we've been doing here lately, we again want to thank our regulars. You guys are the reason why we can continue to do this, because you plug in every week, you provide, commentary, and you also provide us with the audience needed in order to get this work done. So thank you, and I'm going to turn it back over to Greg.
Yep. Yeah, we see you, Joe, driving and checking the back seat. We didn't see Miss Daisy back there, so we doing all right. And yes, we want to get our young folks, I'm stupid. We want to get our young folks to the polls. We can get them to the brass polls, but we need to get them to the voting polls. Somebody will figure that out.
I got it. But Greg, you're on, and while we're waiting for our guests, you're on a good point. Sunday, I was at a breakfast brunch, and there was a young man there, and he was voting for Trump. He's 31 years old. And he kept saying Biden hadn't done anything for us as a people. He wasn't pleased. This were his complaints. He wasn't pleased with what was going on with the border. He also was concerned. He didn't like the pronouns, and there was something else he was concerned about. And so he was asking questions, we were answering. My response was, if you got complaints and problems, then you need to get involved. Go become a member of the Black Caucus. Go become a member of the chambers out there and organizations that are fighting for justice, and understand, if you are at the ground level, now you can have input. If you're not involved, I said, and on top of that, we need young blood to come in and run for offices. So go out there and get educated. He was all into politics. I think he was a political major in school. I said, well, go use that degree and learn how to make it work for you. So that's what I'm saying to all young people. You can't have complaints if you're not sitting at the table while they're making decisions and they have your input. This is your future, not our future, your future. So that's what that was my advice. Because I sit at the tables.
Right. And I haven't had a chance to go back to either the Times or LA Vote to get an update on the elections. In the old days, late in the day, Tuesday, early Wednesday morning, we had results. But now with a lot of mail-in voting happening, the tabulation of the voting process is extended. So we may not get really definitive on until today or tomorrow. I didn't see anybody see what happened with the that Proposition 1 with the bonds and whether that passed. Last I looked, it was tight.
The last I looked, at least they said that it had won, but that doesn't mean all the votes are in, right?
Yeah.
So, to your point, it might have been tight and leaning towards being approved. And, it's kind of concerning because, when the fire department says that they don't want it and we're going against them, and they are our rescue rangers, So, yeah. Hey, Renee.
Hi. Good morning. I heard on NPR yesterday that the Black male is really the new Republican.
Mm-hmm.
and how strong we are for them these days.
Well,
So
they're the new Republicans because they're listening to sound bites on IG reels and TikTok reels. If you listen to them, they're saying it's the same rhetoric with no background to it, no basis to it. They just heard somebody else say it, and so they just jump on that. And anytime somebody say they're against black males and so forth, then they're all for it. So that's why. So that requires us, the elders,
gotta admit it.
to educate these young people.
One of the things that I find very interesting, because my thing always been around, my emphasis has always been around male development, and specifically to black males. We still have this power dynamic shift that hasn't happened, and that needs to happen within the culture. Our women still lead the culture, and most male, we still live in a male-dominated, a patriarchal society, and most black males don't feel like they have a say or participate in the process, even to voice them, to be able to have a voice. And I find it interesting that that they, the first thing they hear, they go to the other side. We have a responsibility to the community and to the work that we do, and we need to be supporting our. It is not our women's responsibility to be in the lead. We need to be supporting her.
Well, the Republican Party is in tatters, and so to be a disruption, if there was a collective effort for tons of black males to all of a sudden flip into the Republican Party and take it over, now is a pretty opportune time. Just like, I thought it would be great, as you catching brothers and Latinos coming out of the prison systems and enroll them into the NRA. That'll get things changed, and that will get gun control happening. But anyway,
yeah. But
it's funny that Karen Hunter on Urban View on Sirius Radio said years ago, if all we needed to do was just to register for a gun, it will shake things up, right? If the number of black people just registered for a gun, to give them the idea that we have access to that. And when you're saying that they get out of prison and to be registered with the NRA, that's kind of scary.
Ted, what would be, while we're waiting for our guest, he's waiting for the link.
All right, Greg.
All right, yeah, we might all need that. Ted, what would be, from those of us that have organizations, what would you suggest that we need to do to empower the black man? Because let me tell you, we sisters don't necessarily want that role. We just been forced to have that role. But what can we do? And I know it starts at home with our younger children, with our boys as children. But what would you suggest, or what would they receive? Let me put it that way. That's a better way.
I think that several fronts. I think that male development issues should be put in youth development programming.
Oh, here we go.
And I also, I mentioned before, I'm on the political education committee with the Black Workers Center, and there are some specific things that I'm going to be doing around civic engagements targeted to males that we're working on, because it is so necessary for us to have a voice. So one of the things I'm planning on doing is, like, when they go and hit the streets to do street stuff, I'm going to be looking at targeted groups. So I'm really thinking about going to have these conversations with capture audiences, where guys are in programs in different places, to really kind of bring up the conversation and to really and kind of put something on their head, to really think about in terms of what their responsibility is, where they should be, and just how misinformed they are. Because clearly, like, I have a couple of guys that's part of the Black Workers Center, and they're Trump followers. Those two things don't even go together.
No, it doesn't happen. You should reach out to the Los Angeles Urban League. There, Daryl Hill. You reach out to me, I'll send you the information. Okay. We have a number of youth programs that are through the Urban League, but we if that's an issue, then we need to address that. And based upon the conversation I had with that young man on Sunday, they are uninformed and they need to be informed. And I'm gonna tell you, as a strong black woman, I don't want to be in that role all the time. I would rather step back and let my male counterparts be that person. But sometimes, my mama used to say, if it ain't gonna get done, you gotta do it.
That's it.
I
Our,
think
our guest has arrived.
Okay, is he here? He was here, and then he popped out.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he snuck in the side door there while the
Okay.
while the movie, thinking about the theater, while the movie had already started, he came in the back door or the side door there,
He slid
and
in unpaid.
he slid in. So, welcome, Owen. We were filling some time. I know you challenged with the link. He's doing Google Meet. No, it's Zoom. So, but he's here. So our guest today is Owen Smith, who is the owner operator of the Miracle Theater in the city of Inglewood.
Woo-woo.
Yeah, I'm Ingle resident. So, for over 2 decades, Owen has played important roles in the Los Angeles entertainment and real estate industries, working up as a startup digital marketing content creation in the early 2000s to bring lead camera operators and gear vendors for 12 seasons on the American Idol location shoots. So he's on the tech side, also been in the forefront of relevant entertainment trends. Early investor in residential real estate in Mar Vista, West Adams, and part of the changing Los Angeles real estate market. The real estate market's changing here in LA? Didn't notice. And also with the revitalization of the Miracle Theater in downtown Inglewood, he's become an active part of the economic planning and redevelopment of the Market Street area. Miracle Theater was opened in 1937. I was doing some research on it, and it went through a number of changes. I didn't know that at one point in time it was known as the Pussycat Theater. Ooh. And was also owned by Lowe's. This was, I think in the 50s, so it was probably legit, and then I think abandoned somewhere in the early 1990s, thereabout. And I think he came across it in 2016, so he'll be sharing more about that with us. As far as background, I have no idea where he grew up and where he was born and raised. I see he went to Eckerd College, and if my recall is proper, I think that's in Florida somewhere, St. Petersburg or something like that. So yeah. St. Pete. So were you born and raised in Florida?
So my family's New York City. And when I was 2, relocated to St. Augustine, Florida. So that's in between Jacksonville and Daytona Beach. The original Florida Memorial School was there. Bethune-Cookman, I believe, was originally in St. Augustine. My folks started a bookstore, of all things. So you let me know when I can apologize for being late. Sorry about it.
Well, you just did, right? And I know you didn't grow up in New York, because you said New York City. Nobody says they're from New York City. You're either from Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Queens, or Staten Island. But anyway, enough of that. We're going to bring you to the virtual stage. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Owen Smith.
Beauty. Well, thank you very much for the intro. Yeah, I was steered wrong into Googleville. I should have been in Zoomtown. But you hit all the right points there. And maybe some of you remember, speaking of sneaking in the side door, we've heard stories when my wife and I, Mariana, and I got the keys for the Miracle Theater. That was June 1st, 2016. We had a music rehearsal, and one of the people that came, and these were friends of mine, recounted sneaking in the back door of the Pussycat Theater back in, that would have been late 70s, early 80s.
Wow.
So there you have it. And yeah, we've been here. It's closing out on 9 years, really 10 years. Started doing the research on the project, and what brought us to downtown Inglewood was the Metro line, the Crenshaw X. We knew about those plans, And very much like that's what got us to West Adams, is we knew about the Expo line, and that was 2004. Um, so my wife, who's from Argentina, we actually met in South America in 1996. I was traveling. I was 22 years old. I had studied at Eckerd College, and I was, you know, um, checking out the world, as they say. I come from a family that has always supported travel and really exploring cultures, right? Um, and so that's what got me to Argentina. I finished studies in Spanish literature and physics. I thought I was going to be in science, but realized that I'm more of a people person, and I enjoy being part of community. Like I said, my folks started a bookstore. That was their dream. They left the New York area. I was actually born in New Jersey, outside the city. And they had three different options. They had Charleston, Key West, or St. Augustine, Florida. And I'm not sure, how familiar the group is here with St. Augustine, but it's a unknowns to my folks, it's a real hotbed of the civil rights movement. 1963, Martin Luther King said it was probably one of the worst places he had ever been. My folks show up in 1976, really not knowing that history, and start a bookstore. My mom always made the joke that she taught the locals how to read. That's really not the case, because you might know that well-educated Southerners typically are very well read. And I'd like to add there, Zora Neale Hurston lived in St. Augustine for a little while. So very rich cultural place, but it is the South, and that's where I grew up. But with a family and with a understanding of how the world works and the importance of community at the same time. And so really what I find myself doing today here in downtown Inglewood is a reflection of what my folks taught me and shared with me growing up, which was being part of a community and opening the doors, really. So the difference is we're in LA. So it's a movie theater and it's entertainment. My background, I went from the studies in Spanish literature and physics. I worked in a winery. That's what got me to South America. And then when I realized that I wanted to continue traveling, I started a documentary project. That's how I got to LA in 1999. You might recall 1999 was a year that the Lakers left the Forum. So I really didn't know Inglewood at the time. We live 12 minutes from downtown Inglewood, and I just didn't have at that point there weren't activities that were speaking to kind of what I was doing, and so I didn't really know downtown Inglewood. What I did know of the community here in LA, and it's full circle, is Aunt Kizzy's. So I remember, and that was Sunday. That was jazz. It was great food, and so I knew about Aunt Kizzy's. That was like one of the first spots that I found. That was back in '99. I say full circle just because I see some of the faces here from the Doolins event. Was that a week or two ago? So, but came out with a documentary project, learned enough about camera work to start getting the jobs that I needed to do. I went from, PA to technical director in a course of a couple years. I'm a fast learner. You mentioned in that bio there, .com. I was like I was working with a company doing digital marketing for the internet. This was phase one of the .com movement. So 2000, I was working in downtown LA. Then I started working in hidden camera shows. That got me to Monster House, which was like a discovery show. And I just it's the classic story in entertainment. You just go from job to job, you meet more people, your network grows. And I was very fortunate when we my wife and I had our first child. She was actually pregnant at the time, and I was working on Survivor. So I'm in the Cook Islands. This is season 13 of Survivor, 2006. And I got a phone call from the production manager on American Idol. And I had just become a union camera guy. And there was one new position on American Idol. It was traveling, but it was a union position. And that's what really started my career in, high-end broadcast television, was that first opportunity with American Idol. So that was 12 seasons on that show. And, we now have 2 children, 17 and 15. And when I had started a small business that was color correction. This is post-production editing. And I had to own a beautiful projector for that. So
you were shooting film.
This was editing, post-production. Yeah.
Okay.
Post-production. And so I'm giving you all this info because now cut to 2015, looking for something that allowed me to stay in LA and not travel as much. Our kids are almost 10 years old. And I realized, geez, I need to be home. I can't, I would spend about 3 months of the year traveling for that show. And as an entertainment professional, especially as a cameraman, the higher up you go, the more travel you do. So that didn't make sense for us. So this was really a family decision. And so we own this beautiful projector. We know enough to understand that in the state of California, if speaking of financial freedom and entrepreneurship, it's really about real estate, right? So you need to own the dirt. And that's anywhere, but especially California. So when I literally was on my bicycle biking the future Crenshaw LAX line and happened upon Market Street, an area that I do remember driving by and kind of seeing, but never really, again, Market Street, as many of you know, half the buildings still remain abandoned and empty. And we all see this kind of revitalization, and we hope for it, but it really is taking so much time. But yeah, so this is 2015. We own a projector and an old movie theater's for sale. And that's what got us to the Miracle Theater. And so that's, it's important that kind of origin story of how we got here, who we are. And then, very quickly, as we were in escrow, and we bought the building with an SBA loan. So during American Idol, I wasn't just a camera guy. I was also the gear vendor for the show. This was, which means I bought the camera gear and rented it back to the show. So that was really my primary business. And that's another, that's just an opportunity. They presented the opportunity to me and I said, yes, I'll do it. Not knowing what that entailed, but I learned and I figured it out. So that's what allowed us as an SBA loan to buy the property. Of course, we had to sell the projector to buy the property. It was a $100,000 projector. So we needed to do that. But when we walked into the Miracle Theater, it had been abandoned for at least a decade. It was in terrible condition. Half the seats needed to be reupholstered. Doors replaced, exit signs, everything up to code. And that process took us about a year. But
some four-legged tenants, probably.
Four-legged tenants and skeletons. I mean, lots of, all those details, right? And at the time in the backyard, there's a chain link fence that you could just push over and walk in. I mean, it was in bad shape, but we saw a bright future and we believed in it. And we worked hard over the last decade to get it to where it is today. But 2 things that are worth noting that happened while we were in escrow. One, announcement of SoFi Stadium. I knew something was happening. I think at the time they were still talking about Inglewood, Carson, and maybe the Inland Empire for an expansion team. And so, people had an idea that something was happening. again, metro expansion of the Crenshaw LAX line. But the other thing is, and this speaks to who Mariana and I are, is that we always left the doors open as we, because we wanted to know who our neighbors were. And as people peered in and checked out the space, we heard over and over, you should open it for stage plays, comedy, music, right? And so that's when we, it was a natural decision. It wasn't easy or difficult. It was just natural. It was like, well, geez, it seems like there's a need for a community space that that is a cultural event venue. That is how we now refer to the Miracle Theater, as a cultural event theater. And so, that has been a journey on its own as far as learning events and entertainment and the business of promotion. And we're still learning it. And it is a beast. We got a few years into it. We were just kind of getting some traction. We had Wyclef Jean, we had Cy Smith, we had a lot of great shows. We were working with a promoter. Pandemic hits. And so there's a shutdown. And so fortunately, the background of having film and video production allowed us to start doing live stream productions here at the theater. And we got through the pandemic. It was not easy. And actually at the time, any successful venture, there's opportunity, there's luck, there's all those things combined. One of the things that we had done in 2020, and we, looking back on it, it's crazy. I mean, literally a week before the shutdown is when we refinanced the property out of the SBA loan to a private lender. We were able to pull out some money, and that allowed us to remodel the theater. So we got into the project with, our resources, knowing that in, the SBA loan allows you to refinance without prepayment penalty after 3 years. So I knew that was the plan. So we pulled money out, we remodeled the theater. We got the liquor license. We did all the things that we needed to do to take the Miracle Theater to the next step, as a proper entertainment venue. And then since in the last couple years, we now have a booker. We still are really on a rental model. Probably 70% of our revenues are generated through rentals. In 2019, 2018, we did start the beginnings of a foundation of a nonprofit, because the more you learn about this business, the more you realize that you have to have, city, state, foundation. It's an expensive kind of venture. Where we are today is we're actually like trying to figure out how to get the theater to the next level. So we will always be in the community, and we will always be engaged with the city of Inglewood. But how do we get it? They're not our competitors, but we do need to work with, Intuit Dome is opening, SoFi, YouTube Theater, the Forum. These are major global world-class destinations. And for downtown Inglewood to become part of that ecosystem, we definitely need to step up our game and play well with others, right?
Well, Owen, one of the things that you said that I liked, you're understanding the lane that you operate in. And to your point, yes, that nonprofit, having a for-profit side and a nonprofit side is certainly going to help you. But one of the things that we were talking earlier about these African-American males who are not necessarily engaged with their community, which we need to find out what their needs are. But as I heard you talking, I heard some training programs around entertainment, right? I heard, some trade activity. And I think that, as we continue to work together, I think that we can probably find some grant dollars that would allow you to hire some people and train them in this venue, the event venue entertainment space. And that's something that's intriguing to these young brothers who, they're trying to rap and they're trying to do this and they're trying to do that. But why wouldn't you want to learn what goes on behind the camera versus actually being in front of the camera? Why wouldn't you want to learn how to promote your entertainment? So speak, have you thought about something like that? Speak to that.
Yeah, there's actually just yesterday, Mariana and I met with the folks at Sola Impact and Sola Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Beehive, right?
Mm-hmm.
If everyone's familiar with that, that's what 60th and Central,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing amazing programming. Now that's a Sola Impact is a real estate developer, and Sola Foundation is essentially their nonprofit effort. So they're working now with Next Gen, which is Live Nation's programming, workforce development, job training program. They are building a smaller kind of tech and entrepreneurial space in Crenshaw, south of Lamert. So those conversations are starting to happen. I mean, my background personally is not,
certainly
lane, but right, growing. That's exactly where we are. It's like growing that organization and understanding that those partnerships are so key. Because what I can see, and we have engaged with 1500 Sound Academy. They've sent a couple younger folks over, and we've taught them how to do lighting, but and front of house too. But what I can see is that bridge to Prairie for jobs. Yeah. Because if you can work at the Miracle Theater, which it's the same dynamics as a larger theater, it's just not 70,000 people. We can get to 600 people. If we pull the seats in the theater, we can get to 600 capacity. When D Smoke did a show here, he was up at like 500 people here. It was bursting at the seams, but it was a great event. But yes, that partnership and understanding how to grow an organization for job training and workforce development, that's absolutely the direction we're headed. And it's trying to figure out how that works, kind of on a financial level, because you just have to realize, I mean, Mariana and myself, at this point, we're totally independent. And we, just now Live Nation is coming in and they're doing some shows. They're actually promoting the Netflix as a joke shows in May. And so I'm having those conversations, and fortunately we have a booker who speaks that language and can work with those folks. But like, we were not railroaded, but when Live Nation came in, it was just like, oh, this is how we're going to do it. And we had already had a conversation with Netflix. Well, but Live Nation, and so there's a lot of relationships that we're cultivating now. And yes, the hope is we could put together some sort of internship program that, first it would probably be a workshop where, number one, we need the programming, we need the place busy 4 to 5 days a week, and have kind of workshops where people come in smaller groups and they see how the theater works behind the stage and also in front, because there's so many jobs. There's hospitality, there's front of house, there's technical, and then there's staging, right? I mean, that's the one thing I learned on American Idol. It's not just the person who's singing. For each one singer, there's probably 500 jobs at least. Well, when you get to the larger scale, behind that one person. So yes, we are looking at that that route for sure, because there's ways to do it.
Let me ask you another question.
Just a real quick pause. We just want to share the screen a little bit so people can visually see what
Greg. Thank you.
what he's talking about here.
Because again, what I'm thinking is,
can y'all see that?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be bar jobs, hospitality, getting people in, ushers, and then stage hands to set up stuff. This is the backyard. Again, how do you, there's a lot of ways to make this one work.
And actually,
a far cry from this, right?
Yeah, far cry. But there's also and I think Ted also said there's some great opportunities with very targeted populations. The Los Angeles Urban League has a backstage career program and careers program. So they were partnered up with with a studio in Glendale, I believe, and something happened there during the pandemic. So they probably would be open to something like that. The South Bay Workforce Readiness Program, they have actually an apprenticeship program with dollars that's attached to it. Ted mentioned some others. I think there are a number. Brotherhood Crusades probably could have some input because they actually have a number of young men opportunity programs. They have 3 or 4 different programs at Brotherhood Crusades. So there are a lot of organizations, Owen, that are in the city that work with the youth population and just need to have an introduction to you. And if they're nonprofits or social enterprising type platforms, they can write grants if that's identified in the arts and performance community, career, workforce development. They can write grants that can actually get monies to fund you to do exactly that. They're looking for those resources and a place where there could be on the job training kind of as opposed to theory. Most of us are teaching theory versus on the job. So if that definitely could be some synergy for you. And then what was young lady Jean Franklin? My God, that woman was like full of resources. So Ted is putting stuff in the chat. So if that's something you're interested in, and next year, if you reach out to Babu with a Pan African Film Fest, they're always looking for locations to display their new products. I don't know if you've ever been to the Pan African Film Fest. So usually they do it over at the mall, but they could use other locations as well. So just my input. So I'm gonna put that back at you and Greg.
Well, and that's the thing about it. My church has had a couple of events there. We do these community plays in the cast is made up of folks from the community, and the beautiful thing is that they do have the backyard space. So after the play was over with, then the whole band went out in the back and set up, and they had this major jam session, and socialization and all that kind of stuff. So I think that what we're saying here is, one, we want to thank you for coming on to the community briefing. 2, we don't want you to be a stranger. And 3, we think that this space can provide some connections and some resources for you so that we can continue to do what we want to do. And that really is to bring resources, grow our community, and educate our youth so that they know what their options are. Here again, the challenge that we have with these young brothers is the fact that nobody's really taking them by the hand and say, hey, look, let's talk about what your options are, right? Not just what you think you see, but what are you seeing? And then what are options are available there? And so again, with your background, I love what you said at the top of the conversation, though. Real estate is king, and real estate is that driver, and you guys have the real estate. So now what you need are the programs and the opportunities to actually grow this thing that will benefit the full community. And then Joe Ruzon put a question in: what is the greatest need right now?
The greatest need for the theater? What I would think it's going to start with programming.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting in the conversation with Sola Foundation yesterday. It was insightful because they were very laser focused on right now their needs were, and then once they get out of capital, then they'll go into programming because they're in construction mode. I mean, we do want to take the theater to the next level, being able to have different types of seating accommodations because we do different types of events. So flexibility there. But ultimately, when it's time to take it to the next level, it's gonna be programming. In 2026, the NBA All-Star Game is here in it.
Uh-oh, you froze.
Let's see.
Oh, there you go. You're good. You're
He
good.
thought out. Yeah.
So, and to your point, there's 12 million events coming to Los Angeles, in and around sports and entertainment. And the mission is, as Crystal always says, is to be at the table, not on the table being served up, right? And so I think that what we do is we kind of, put your contact information in the chat box so that folks can reach out to you, and we can start having some deeper conversations. And your idea that you need programming, and there are some programming needs that can be met without it actually costing money, right? The organization, you're having an event, you have the real estate, you have the space, they can actually bring that there. And especially to me, if they're dealing with youth, I think that we get them comfortable that this is their space in their community, kind of thing. And I think that buy-in would really, really help. But as I said before, we need you to put out, matter of fact, I'll put you tell me what you want me to put in the chat box, because we want to get that documented so that if people want to reach out to you. I know Ted Booker is chomping at the bit because Ted is a programmatic individual. Renee Tabor is another programmatic individual, and Joe Roseanne has a sweet spot in his heart for Inglewood. That I do know. Joe, you want to say something?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I've had a relationship with Owen and Ken for a few months, and we've periodically been touching bases on how we can help one another. What I really, really enjoy in this twilight of my career, where I've on my third strike of retirement, is really selecting key individuals to align with. And Ken happens to be, along with Owen, I would call them the odd couple, but they're a good couple. But what I really enjoy about the relationship that we've had over the last several months is the passion that Owen in particular has for maintaining a level of culture in Inglewood. Speaking specifically of the African American experience in Inglewood when times were not good and had not been good. And as this evolution and gentrification is staring us in the eyes, I'm happy to hear that Owen wants to maintain that level. With that said, I think it's one of the things I could share with Owen in terms of just keeping the name of the theater and the things you're doing is consider Black Meetings in Tourism. There's a magazine where when they have conventions coming to Los Angeles, particularly for Black folk, Black Meetings in Tourism is a major vehicle and tool that I think could really enhance the marketing experience of the theater. So I want to share that.
I was Crystal, you'd be happy to see I was doing my research here. Would they be listed, that group?
Probably not. I don't think it's in there, but it's Solomon Herbert is the chief editor, and he's been around for a long time, does a great job. It's not just national, it's international. I mean, they have stuff from the Bahamas and Trinidad and all over the world of different conventions that go on. But being that LA is a major destination for tourism. And the other one, are you a member of LA Inc., Owen? Okay,
No.
LA Inc. is Los Angeles. As we talk about Inglewood, we almost got to talk about Inglewood being part of LA because it's that collaboration with the city of LA. But LA Tourism it's a private entity, nonprofit that actually delivers the tourism services for the city of LA. And it's not just city of LA businesses that are in that group, but you might just want to take a look at that LA Inc. I don't know why I didn't think about telling you that in our many conversations we've had, but just another vehicle that could really enhance the experience at Miracle.
Okay.
And also Linda Sands just dropped in. Linda does she honors those great stars from the past, and so she does a number of events bringing those artists. Linda, you want to tell them what you do?
Owen, he know me. What's up,
okay.
Owen Smith?
So there's a number of organizations, and I have this summer we're always looking for field trips for our kids. So if you for careers, I do a entrepreneurial program in the summertime for in June and July. We have about 50 kids. Last year we had 64 kids. And so we're always looking for places that we can bring the kids to inform them of opportunities and careers that they can actually explore before they get to the place of going to college. So if that's something we do, I do that program. It's called the Los Angeles Urban League Biz Camp. And so we host that every summer. Our host school is Da Vinci, and they have an amazing program. But we're always looking for things in the community to bring our kids to. And then there's a number of places kids could have lunch over there that we could serve. So something like that we could do, and then that could be a definitely introduction into the Los Angeles Urban League. But as Ted said, there are a number of nonprofit organizations always looking for community partners that we can work with. Ted, did you want to jump in there and say something?
Yes, messaging is the key. I'm a grant writer, so for the agency that I work for, and I can say one thing from a cultural perspective, it is known through research that you can get a message across faster in the arts than with one program, one session of something versus 10 sessions for a program. So in this era that we're in right now, messaging is so important to a number of audiences. And so that's really the key to draw folks to the order. The theater is not that big. There's a number of folks that can drop that could fill a 500 or 600 seat theater. That's not a lot. So you could have those kind of partners that will, that could really fill your calendar, while you're doing other things, especially during the course of the week. You may want to use your weekend time for like major things, but let's say like during the course of the week, Monday through Friday, you want nonprofit and activity going on that's going to also feed you, because that's going to feed the theater, because and a lot of times that's stuff that can be happening during the day as opposed to evening. So there's a number of things that you could be looking at, but the theater itself is a gold mine for and it's for some of us. We understand the beauty of what you have. Because the agencies I work for, we've rented the theater on a number of occasions, but it's also good to be in relationship because there are more things that we could do. So I would love to be able to come talk to you, to kind of propose some stuff and do some other writing specific. To we have a number of folks with us that's from the art. So just having a commitment sometimes from the right entities is the vehicle that you need to be able to draw the other dollars.
It's funny that you say that. That triggers something for me. One of my friends' mom lives in the artist colony apartments in North Hollywood. I don't think that there's an artist colony in South Central, right? And that could be, you guys could be the base for that, some of these people who have been, I just met one of the Nicholas brothers' brother last week. But I think that we welcome the fact that you've come on. Two, we see this as whenever you come on a community briefing, you become a part of the family. So we don't expect you just to be on here for this little, half an hour or so, and then we don't hear back from you. So we want to help support what you're doing. We want to help you. We also want you to use this platform because, again, you're hosting stuff that's in our neighborhood. It's for us and in our neighborhood. And Renee has her hand up. And so you got to listen carefully because whatever she comes up with is always profound. Renee.
Once you get off of mute. Shut
up. Well, hello. I work with the Leimert Park Theater Coalition, And we have a readers theater, and we have done fabulous. This is what she was talking about. We do fabulous things. We had we did Langston Hughes, we did James Baldwin. We need a platform to work with someone like you. We're in most of the southern South LA theaters, Willie AG and Barbara Morrison and all of those. And we are working with interns, people that want to learn just what you've been talking about. So I would like to connect with you so you can connect with us and see what we can do. And we do grant writing too. So that's what I want to say. And
look at that, Owen. Stuff just coming at you from all angles. All you have to ask, all you have to do is ask.
that's the name of the game.
Well, you know, and that's what the briefing is about, though, right? The briefing truly is about connecting folks to the resources and educating and being the voice for folks who don't really realize that this is their platform. Greg, it's on you.
Yeah, I had a quick question. What's happening with if I recall, the neighbors on both sides of you? I think they're abandoned. And when it comes to having large events, is there parking? Is it street parking? How does that work out? So it's a two thing factor. One is that land available? Who owns those buildings? Are the same person? Because there's a lot of what's it called, dead space on Market Street, that strip there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's still an inordinate amount of uniform stores. So on the north side of the Miracle Theater is a uniform store. At one point, they wanted to sell that building. Then the children of the owner decided not to. We have a conversation with them every once in a while. On the south side, we lease the building for larger events. And so we actually use it for the Miracle Theater already. Across the street, there is an empty building. It's like 9,000 square feet. It's a huge building that's just empty next to a uniform store. The issue there with many of these buildings is just that they're so large that unless you own and operate the building, it really doesn't make financial sense. They're looking for $2 a square foot around here. And if you're looking at a 9,000 square foot building, the numbers just don't work. So that's part of the latest kind of conversations with the city and then the different ownership groups, which is how do we make smaller spaces? How do we, there's a lot to be done here. There's a lot of, I would consider it good work, but there's a lot of work to be done for sure.
Plus too, I would venture that there's an environmental impact too. Those older properties got lead and all kinds of environmental challenges when you start trying to reposition them. That's real estate. It's no joke when you're trying to get something done in Los Angeles. But again, we honor the fact that you guys you've made a commitment based on the way your folks raised you, and you married a woman who's an international person who gets it. Again, my experience has been when people come from other countries here, they see America in one way, and then they get here and start to realize that we got the same challenges as everybody else, And so thank you for making a commitment to downtown Inglewood, and particularly Market Street, and knowing that, and these resources that have been provided to you, and some new relationships that can be built so that we can sustain and thrive and grow in our own backyard.
Right. And I think with what's happening in Inglewood, the Savoy has actually been the only entertainment source that has been in that city for a very, very long time, far as for just gatherings and stuff. But, have a theatrical piece to that as well. And I think I think they do some music or something over there, but really not promoted outside of the Inglewood area. You hear about it, but you don't really know what's going on. So, I think that's necessary for you. The messaging, as Ted said, getting that information out. Quite frankly, Owen, I didn't know until I came over when I was at the City First Bank event and I met you with Dalmy. I don't really I go to the bank. That's what I do in Inglewood. I go to my bank. And so that's when I met you. And so then I went back and like, wow, look, there's events over there. My girlfriend told me she has some friends that are doing a comedy show over there. And so now it's on the radar. So,
Yeah.
but I do think if you're looking for programs and things, that there are a number of us have programs that are looking. A lot of times we have programs and no location, so
Right.
and no partners. So we need you as much as you need us, probably.
Renee, get off of mute so you can talk. Get off of mute.
Last thing to say, Owen, I have a relative named Owen Smith, so now I have two of you in my life. Anyway, we have our theater coalition meeting today, so your name will be on my agenda. And
Yeah.
I sent you a private note with my contact information. So we want to get together. I'm already telling you. Bye. Thank you.
Be careful what you ask for, man.
We welcome relationships, and thank you for reaching out, Crystal, for making the introduction, getting us on the community brief, and yeah, look forward to.
Okay, I'm sorry. I told them about this over a year ago, but you know, we're not counting. We're not counting.
Her information carries weight. Richard Kennedy says, are there any redevelopment projects currently on the horizon for downtown Inglewood? I know that you're right. There's a lot of still vacant buildings there that have been vacant for many, many years, empty lots, all kinds of stuff going on. And with that, with Inglewood being the mecca of sport and entertainment now, there should be some redevelopment projects. Richard, don't know if anybody got that cash. They must be asking for a lot of money, or there's a lot of money to redevelop.
Well, you know, one of the things that and just as we close out, one of the things I think you need to think about, you know, with this pushback around DEI and this pushback about why is it specific for minorities, blah, 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 blah. I think that organizations, these bigger entertainment companies, the big media companies, are going to be looking for alliances that allow them to still push that forward without it being called minority. So I think that I'd like to be able to meet with you to talk about that, because there are some places to plug in there. And I think that part of it is come to the table with a solution with them and they're going to listen. But if you come to the table with an ask, they're not going to listen. And I'm going to work with Renee and Ted and, you know, our team here to for us to be able to think through some things that we can solution for these organizations. Because at the end of the day, the minority is the majority at this point. So they're going to have to address this, whether they want to or not. And so why wouldn't we try to push an envelope a little bit by providing them with some options on what that can look like?
Mark Mariarga from the National Los Angeles Urban League was on news last week, and he said DEI is actually equity for all races. And so, and that's just not Black people, that's a minority, Latino people, that's anyone of other races. So it's not just about, it's inclusion of all of us. And if all of us are working together, then we can't have one facet making money and then the others are pulling from that one facet. It requires all of us to be able to contribute to the communities and the cities and the states that we live in to make this a better place. If you travel outside of this country, you see what happens in the third world countries when there's only 1% of the population. I'm sure your wife from Argentina, you know, the poverty in third world countries is just devastating, and it's not helping the GDP in those countries. It's devastating it. So, and if we can get past the fact that it's different people and get to the point of it, we're all working together, we make a better place for all of us to live, not just for a percentage of us to live.
So we created an inclusion initiative versus a diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let's just call it an inclusion initiative. And we all know.
We know what we're talking about. It's all in the words. God double speak.
Right.
What it's called. Owen, we want to thank you so much and know that you are now of the family. And you tell us what you want us to help you with, and we got folks. And folks that come with abilities and money. So you just need to let us know what you need.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you very much for including Mariana and myself, the Miracle Theater, in the inclusion initiative.
Exactly.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. Change the language. Then they can't complain, right?
Yeah, that's all you need to do is just change the language every time they disband a language. Just change it to something else.
Yeah, that's what they do
until they catch up. They're banning books, so they won't even know it's written. So they're
Steven, what we got next week? Come on.
Next week we have a surprise guest.
Okay.
To be determined.
Okay.
We're working on our guest for next week. Greg, anything with your sexy very white voice?
I had to make sure a couple of times, make sure I was mute, trying to clear my throat. So no, me and Kermit over here are gonna just say thanks for tuning in. We check y'all next week.
Yeah.
All righty, everyone.
All right.
Thank
Take
you
care,
so
everybody.
Owen, you are always welcome. And reach out to all of these people, and these people will be reaching out to you and let us know what you need. If you want a connection or introduction to the Los Angeles Urban League for those opportunities, reach out to me, and I can make that happen.
And Owen, go into the chat box, and then you see the 3 little dots on the chat box. You know how to save that, right?
Yeah, that's. Oh, I didn't know. I was just taking pictures of it.
All you have to do is hit those 3 little dots, and it'll save the chat for you. You see that?
That's part 1. Part 2 is figuring out where it got saved.
Right. Well, we're all connected. I'll figure it. I got.
Well, you got Robin. Robin knows how to get to all of us.
I saved it. Hey, Jasmine.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, Linda. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Owen. So appreciate you coming on.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.